Hello everyone, my name's Nathan, and my name is Nathan, and today we're going to talk about what astrology is and why you should get a reading. So astrology is an ancient practice where people would look up at the sky, at the stars, and interpret the constellations and the movements of the planets as oracles of all the facets of life. And so what I do as an astrologer today is essentially take a snapshot of the sky the day you were born and use that information to discover things about you as a person, and then look at where the planets are currently and interpret that as how energy is moving in your life. Your chart is broken into 12 sections, or rather your life is broken into 12 sections according to astrology. They are the house of self, values, communications, home and family, pleasure, health, relationships, reincarnation, philosophy, social status, friendships, and self-undoing or spirituality, whatever that means to you. Now, while that doesn't sound like an exhaustive list of every aspect of life, the houses do get a little bit more detailed, so you can get a little bit more information than just those 12 categories. Keeping these categories in mind, that this does help you construct what sort of question you might ask during an astrology session. So I've broken down, based on the 12 signs, what may specifically interest each of the signs. So Aries likes to be in front and take the lead. So astrology does give you that vantage point of knowing what's coming so you can kind of plan ahead. Now, with astrology, the planets are going to be moving no matter what you do. And when you think of it that way, pretty much what you get in your reading is going to happen, but it may not happen in the way you expect it to. So what that looks like is, if you see that you have a challenge coming and you try to avoid that challenge by maybe avoiding a situation or like setting yourself up so that situation won't happen, that challenge is still going to happen. So you're probably going to be challenged in a way that you just weren't expecting. The way to prepare for astrology is to manage your internal self of how will I respond when this challenge arises. Because the challenge is going to come either way, no matter what you do. Taurus tend to be more easygoing, so astrology can actually help you plan ahead, like when you don't want to. Taking that to the extreme, astrology can be somewhat of a crutch to some people, so manage that as well. Again, like, consider your inner self. Use astrology to understand your strengths and how you can support yourself so that astrology doesn't become a crutch. Gemini, on the other hand, is much better at organizing their schedule and multitasking, and probably less likely to use astrology as a crutch, but still may find astrology useful for organizing their schedule or scheduling purposes. Cancer are a little more maternal and may be interested in doing an astrology reading for their family. That is one cool thing I like about astrology, is seeing how people relate to each other based on what planets are where, and where there may be conflicts in personality or where there may be a really good alignment with personality. Family systems are a very important part of our lives, important in the sense that they do have a very strong influence. I don't really know enough about the psychology of families, except that they do have a very strong influence, especially in the development of the child, which is what the fourth house is all about, and which is very related to Cancer's energy. Leos like to stand out, kind of similar to Aries, but Leo is a little bit more about connecting to people. Aries is a little bit more rebellious, kinda. Independent is probably the closest word. Where Leo is more about fame and glory and rising to the occasion. Astrology is interesting to Leo because astrology would tell you the time where you're going to shine brightest. You can shine bright in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different areas of life. And depending on where your planets are aligned, you're going to have more energy in a particular area of life. Virgo, similar to Gemini, is very organized already, and so they're probably more prone to using astrology as a tool for planning. Libras are more balance oriented and really enjoy justice and being a part of that sort of initiative. So astrology is going to benefit the Libra in looking for upcoming conflicts or upcoming imbalances in energy so that they can have that vantage in conflict resolution, either within themselves or within groups that they participate in. Scorpios are more mysterious and private, so astrology may be probably most jarring for them because astrology can be very revealing. So it's important for me as an astrologer to create a safe space where people don't feel necessarily like I'm prying into their life. So for Scorpios, astrology is important for deeper insight into themselves, being receptive to themselves, and having a safe space to talk about maybe what's going on with them. Sagittarius tend to be a little bit more floaty and adventurous and philosophical, so astrology is probably most fascinating to them as just a new way of looking at things. Astrology can be helpful for people who tend to wander around with no direction, because astrology is always consistent. The planets are always moving, so there's always some direction that you can be going in. And that way astrology can be very grounded for ungrounding people. Capricorn are more authoritarian and like to have structure in their lives. So astrology is a great way to create some structure. The other thing that might appeal to Capricorn is the tradition of astrology. Capricorn also like to make sense of things, and life doesn't always make sense. So when you're looking for answers for questions that can't always be answered, astrology can be very comforting for them. Aquarius love to be progressive and unconventional and unique and spontaneous. And so astrology being almost like the new way of things, the new age of things, astrology is just going to be very naturally appealing to Aquarius. Pisces tend to also be naturally attracted to astrology because they are more of the spiritual oriented people. And so astrology in an esoteric sense is going to appeal more likely to someone who's drawn to metaphysical things. So I know that's a lot of information, and I find that is often the case doing astrology readings, is that sometimes you get a lot more information than you thought you were going to get. One thing that you may find is that you actually relate more to another sign than your own sun sign. And what might be happening is that you just have more planets in that sign. That was one of the first things that really opened my eyes to astrology, is that myself being a Leo, I really didn't relate to Leo being kind of the ostentatious, extroverted type. I tend to be a little bit more introverted, and I happen to have a lot more earth sign energy, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn in my chart. And so I relate more to those signs. If you have any questions about astrology, I'd be happy to answer them. Feel free to drop a comment, subscribe, like this video. I hope you found it insightful. Like I said, it's a lot of information, and sometimes I can get caught up myself in just how dizzying it all is. But I hope you found it interesting. I hope it brought some value to you. That's all I wanted to say in this video, so I'll see you next time.